Hey guys, welcome to another podcast episode. I am Admiral Storm, joined by Mystic and El Pal. Today is all about Animal Crossing in this podcast, where ask them about the game in various different questions, different areas and aspects, and how they have been affected by it, how they got into it. And I guess if you guys are ready, we can get to the questions.
Oh boy.
It's not that many, not too many. The first one being, what is Animal Crossing for people who are out of the loop?
Um, okay, so I decided I was just gonna read from Wikipedia on this because it's kind of a hard game to describe if you've never played it. Um,
I could think of a few ways.
well, so here's what Wikipedia says. Animal Crossing is a social simulation video game series developed and published by Nintendo. In Animal Crossing, the player character is a human who lives in a village inhabited by various anthropomorphic animals, carrying out various activities such as fishing, bug catching, and fossil hunting. The series is notable for its open ended gameplay and extensive use of the video game console's internal clock and calendar to simulate real passage of time.
Well, that's a lot more in depth than I would have described it. I would have described it as a game where you build a village and it's kind of like Stardew Valley. You help this village, you sell stuff, you catch stuff, go fishing, and all that stuff. Basically, a big village builder, but you're
I
the only
mean,
human.
calling it a village builder, especially for the earlier games, is not technically accurate because there's quite a few elements of sort of making the town your own that did not come into play until like the last two games that came out.
Animal
So,
Crossing, New Horizons, and New Leaf.
yeah. Not in the opposite order, but yeah.
Yeah, because in the older games, you really didn't have that much control about the layout of the town or anything.
Yeah, like you could reset the game to get it to give you a different one, but that was really like the only thing you could do. Other than that, stuff just kind of went wherever it went, and that was that.
Right. When did the first game debut?
Per Wikipedia, 2001.
Oh, wow.
Not as old as I thought it would be.
I mean, that's still pretty old,
Yeah.
or at least to me, it feels old.
I mean, that is 1 year younger than me, so it seems like a pretty long time.
Yeah, I always remember having the game because I know my siblings had it, so it doesn't really surprise me that it's that old. But
How many games are there? How many different, I guess, mainline games? I don't even know if there are spin offs.
There are five mainline games and two spin-offs.
Oh, wait,
Well,
Animal Crossing Pocket Camp.
okay, three spin-offs if you count Pocket Camp. I forgot about Pocket Camp.
I guess the whichever one of you want to go first on this one. When did you first find these games?
well, I've always been playing Animal Crossing because, like I said, my siblings had it, so I've had pretty much my whole life to play the old games. So, when the new ones come out, it's really exciting for me because it was a big part of my childhood.
It was kind of the same thing for me actually because my the first game that I played was Wild World, and I actually started out as like a player two until I ended up getting my own copy of the game.
What about the game at least in your own opinion, is most appealing to you?
That's a hard question. That's a really hard
Okay,
question.
let me rephrase it. What about the game made you want to play it?
I mean, obviously at first it was just, oh, older sibling plays game. I want play game too. But it's kind of hard to describe really. At least for me, I don't know about Alpal, but I know for me it's definitely hard to kind of pinpoint what exactly it was. It's just something about, I think, building the relationships with your villagers and something like being able to collect the furniture and clothes and stuff. Some kind of addictive quality to it, and I can't really put my finger on it beyond that.
How about for you, Alpal? I don't know.
Alpal?
Is she there?
One moment, my audio keeps.
Ah,
Sorry.
bear with us, people. Don't worry, it's fine. It
So I think
happens.
part of why I played when I was younger was because when I was young, I was really bad at video games. And this isn't really a win or lose video game. It's kind of just a
It's a chill kind of game, laid back.
yeah. You just kind of go with the flow. So I think that really, you know, made the game for me when I was little because it's like, there's no fighting villains or trying to not die. It's just kind of just living life.
It's not a rage-inducing game.
Oh,
I
definitely
would
not.
argue that point.
I mean,
Oh, so what parts make it rage-inducing?
I mean, okay, it's definitely not um like rage at like how you rage at some video games because you keep dying and you can't seem to
Right.
figure out what you're supposed to do.
like Mario.
Yeah. It's just the first example that comes to mind for me for rage inducing is when you catch fish in the game. So you cast your fishing line, and if you don't get in like exactly the right spot, the fish will not see it and will not come to the fishing pole for anything in the world.
That's annoying.
Yeah. And then if you do get it in the right spot, you have to wait a second for the fish to actually bite. And these fish can sometimes they'll bite one time, sometimes they'll bite like 3 or 4 times. And every once in a while, you'll get a fish that just goes for it right away, and you have to mash the A button when they bite. So you have to pay attention. And that whole thing can be very, very frustrating when you're trying to catch a specific fish.
Right.
But like it's
Yeah.
extra annoying if you wait for it like 5 times. It ends up being a piece of trash.
What about those spiders catching spiders?
Ooh, that's fun.
Oh, not the tarantulas.
The tarantulas, yeah.
I have a
That
lot of fun catching tarantulas. You just gotta know how to do it.
okay, so I'm gonna do a small story time on that. In the new game, there are these islands that you can go to, mostly for collecting resources. That one of them only spawns tarantulas. I ended up on that island completely by accident. I mean, it's all random, but I wasn't even looking for it because some people will go specifically looking for it when it's tarantula season. And I have never had that much anxiety playing an Animal Crossing game in my entire life. It was very stressful.
So in this new one,
I know
New
a very
Horizons,
similar thing happened to me, except I was trying to find that island, and I had a lot of fun.
how is it rare or hard to get to these new islands?
Yeah, so each island, like the islands you can go to are randomized, and there's a different percentage for certain islands, and the tarantula one is one of the harder ones to get. Not the hardest, but one of the harder ones to get. And there's also one for, like, right now we're in scorpion season.
Ooh, boy.
So there's one for scorpions too. That they function identically. It's just one tarantulas, one scorpions.
I didn't know that. I thought the only islands you could visit is friend islands.
No, in the new game, yeah, you can do that, but there are also you accumulate these things called Nook Miles, and then you can trade your miles for a Nook Miles ticket. You take that to the airport, and you can say, "Oh, I want to use the Nook Miles ticket," and that's when it randomly generates one of these islands for you to go to.
Tom Nook.
Yeah, yep. Whole
Well, I
thing's
have a
run
few
by
things
Tom
to say
Nook.
about Tom Nook when we get there.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, luckily that's the next thing. Who are your favorite characters, or what do you like about certain characters?
Don't like Tom Nook.
And of
It's
course, you
just
can talk about ones you do hate too. That's also the next question after this.
gonna go on a little mini rant about him. It bothers me because every time I come to like a town or an island, he's like, "Oh, you got to work for me, and you have to pay me 10 million bells for a house." And I just don't think it's fair, especially in the new game where you have to do everything. You have to make sure you know where your buildings are going to be and where your villagers' houses are going to be. And he still makes you pay for everything. And it's a little frustrating.
I mean, I don't. Some people like absolutely hate Tom Nook. What did I just say? Tom Nook. I mean, it is kind of annoying that you have to kind of grind for money. Essentially, that's like one of the major parts of the game, like Alpal said. But at the same time, I don't know. He's kind of just doing his job, like. And at the same time, you kind of need some kind of point to work towards, and in a way, grinding for money is really kind of one of the few goalposts you can put in the game where, like, you have something to work towards, but it's also, like, it's still go at your own pace. And, like,
I don't know. I've been
character.
working for Tom Nook for nearly 15 years, and I'm just sick of it at this point.
I mean, I definitely get that. Like, I do think it would be kind of interesting to have a game where that's not the case, whether it's just you have a different character that's kind of taking Nook's place, or that system is somehow completely reimagined. But I'm not sure how you would do that.
Tom
Yeah,
Nook
I mean,
is
I can't
the-
really see these games any other way.
Tom
Yeah.
Nook is this weird. Is he a teddy bear?
Tom Nook? No.
He's brown. He has
He's a
the
coon.
darker brown mask sort of thing going on.
He's a Tanuki,
Tanuki.
which is okay, let me not put my foot in my mouth. I believe Tanuki, it might just be raccoon in Japanese. Let me look that up really quick. Yeah, okay. Yeah. A Tanuki is the Japanese raccoon, and
They're
like
really
it's its
cute.
own thing. But it is very similar, obviously, to a raccoon because it's called a raccoon dog. But so that's what Tom Nook is, and they actually have the Tanuki kind of a cultural significance in Japan. There's like folk tales and things that involve the Tanuki, similarly to stories that involve the Kitsune. And there's another character that actually is a Kitsune or a fox. His name is Red, or Crazy Red, most people know him as.
Oh, I
And
see
that,
the raccoon now.
yeah, and and that all makes
Japanese
sense.
raccoon dog.
Yeah, and it makes sense that um, there would be characters inspired by animals that have that kind of significance in Japan, because Animal Crossing is a Japanese game. That's where it comes from originally.
That still surprised me. I had no idea games like this were considered Japanese games or were Japanese based games.
Well, I mean, Nintendo is Japanese based.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense.
And that's why even when you play like one of the Mario games, Mario has the
he has a Tanuki suit.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Man, it's been a while since I played
Connection.
Mario. Yeah. What about your favorite characters?
Um, I really love a character that was introduced in New Leaf, and unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing her in New Horizons because her job has been largely taken over by other characters now. Luna, she is a tapier, and she ran the Dream Suite in New Leaf, and I really can't put my finger on what it is about her that I like so much. I like her design, and she seems really nice, and I just really like her.
For like non-villager characters, I really like Blathers. I feel like I relate to him on a spiritual level. He's the owl that is in charge of the museum, and you go to him when you donate fossils or bugs or fish, and I really vibe with him.
Oh yeah, Blathers is great, and I really like his sister, Celeste, especially because in Wild World, the Animal Crossing title for the DS, like the regular DS, you could actually go up to her observatory on the second floor of the museum and make your own constellations, and they would bring that back.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I am really disappointed how she's in New Horizons, but not as much as she was in the other games, and it's a little disappointing.
Yeah, because even in New Leaf, you could get the second floor of the museum, and it was almost like a little gift shop, and you could make your own exhibit rooms. And I'm really kind of surprised they didn't bring back that or the constellation thing, especially because New Horizons has such a huge focus on making your island your way, essentially. How be to make your own constellations in the sky?
Yeah, I'm really surprised they kind of took that away because that was always a really fun part of the older games. But oh well.
What are some of your guys' favorite aspects of the game?
Probably for me, it's the designing and collecting furniture and clothes and stuff, because that's, especially in recent years, that's become a bigger part of the game. And one of the spin-offs, Happy Home Designer, was centered entirely around the whole the different themed sets of furniture you could collect, and designing houses and stuff, including that was actually the first game where you could put furniture outside, not New Horizons, which I'm sure is what a lot of people think. But yeah, I played the crap out of that game, and that's one of my favorite things in the mainline games too. It's just it's a little harder to do because you have to actually collect everything yourself. In Happy Home Designer, it's handed to you a little more freely.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not a super big fan of designing things like designing houses or clothes or layouts. So that's the one thing I don't really like about the newest game because that you have so much freedom to make your island how you want, and I don't like that. I just like catching bugs and fish all day. That's kind of probably my favorite part of the game. Every time I play, I just run around the island trying to catch everything. Because I like having my museum full of fish and bugs. Fossils are a little but it's still fun to dig around for them.
I admittedly really like the fossils just because the more you fill your museum up, they become just another item you can sell, and they usually sell for a lot more.
What do you use? I'm guessing you use the money for furniture and stuff.
Yeah, because there's the Nook's Cranny shop, and then there's Able Sisters, the clothing shop. And in New Horizons, there are a couple characters that come to your island that you can buy things from, which I could go on a tangent about the whole, like, the furniture and the stores and stuff, but I'm going to try to keep a lid on that. But yeah, your main objective of the game, like I implied a while ago, is to grind for money so that you can pay off your house, because the more you pay off your house, you can then expand your house so you have more room to put all your stuff. And of course, you can buy stuff to put in your house with the bells.
And why is it bells? Why is the currency called bells?
That's a good question, actually. I do not have the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure because they don't look like bells. You know, they look like regular bags of money or coins. So that's kind of weird. I guess I never thought about it before, though.
Let me see if Professor Google can give us the answer to that.
While you look for that, we can go on to the non-lover side. What do you think could be changed about the game?
I have a whole list of things I've been noting about New Horizons specifically.
Either changed
as I play.
Or improved.
Let's see. I'm trying to find.
I'm not really sure what I would want different. I'm pretty content with the game as it is. You know, I don't like as much freedom in this game to just build anything where I want, but overall, I mean, it's a pretty solid game.
Is this island bigger or smaller compared to other villages you can build in the other games or villages you're a part of?
I think it's about the same.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's about the same size. It feels a little bit different because there are like cliffs and stuff now that were not really part of the other games.
Plus New Horizons, if I'm correcting. New Horizons, and if I'm correct, New Leaf as well are 3D.
They're all, even the first game were done in like this same type of 3D graphic style. Oh, really? It's just the older graphics are a lot rougher around the edges.
Because they're older.
I mean, yeah.
I think, though, if I had to change something about New Horizons, it would be that, you know, my fishing rod wouldn't break after I catch 20 fish. That's a little bit annoying.
Oh, don't get me started on the breakable tools.
How many types of fish?
It's something that you don't really see in the other games, so it's like...
Well, okay. In past games, at least New Leaf I know for sure, and I think other past games, the axe would break after you used it so many times. But other than that, we've never had breakable tools before.
Yeah.
And like the concept of, oh, you come to a desert island, and the first tools that you can make because you also make your tools and have to make them stronger, so that's fine. That I get. Here's my beef, is that I feel tools that aren't, I feel like they still break way too quickly, and the golden tool, reportedly, which is absolutely ridiculous.
I heard about the golden tools.
Previous games, you could get silver and gold tools, and they would upgrade to your existing tool. So, like the silver slingshot, instead of firing just one little sling pellet or whatever at a time, the silver one would fire two, and the golden one would fire three. So it would be easier to shoot down balloons. Or the watering can. The silver watering can would water more flowers, and then the gold watering can would water even more flowers than the silver one did. In this game, they do break, like, they take more hits to break, but they still break. And this is a problem because gold nuggets are an item that you need to make them. They're already kind of hard to come across. And when you learn that the tools break, it kind of becomes, well, what's the point then? If they're just going to break anyway and I have to use a rare resource to get them, I might as well just stick with the regular ones if they're going to break anyway.
Yeah, it's really frustrating.
How many
So I don't think
types?
I'm ever going to bother trying to make, a gold fishing rod. So it would just break, and then I'd be sad, and I'd have to make a new one anyways.
I
Yeah.
can definitely see that as being very frustrating. Especially for an item called a gold watering can or gold fishing rod. You would think it would be a lot more durable than that.
Well, it would. Like, that the watering can thing is actually like a joke in the community, because they're like, how do you break a gold watering can to the point you can't use it anymore?
Well,
I
then
mean, unless
again,
if you're
in
using...
reality, gold is a very weak metal.
Yeah, it is, but even then, like, water shouldn't be able to break it down that much.
Yeah, gold doesn't rust, and that would be,
True.
like, for the regular watering can, okay, you use the watering can so much that the bottom rusts out and it won't hold water anymore. Okay, that can't happen with a gold watering can, though. And it's not like you're hitting stuff with...
You gotta use some strong chemicals to break down gold. So, I don't know what you're watering your flowers with, but you might want to find something else.
Apparently, that is some very strong fertilized water you should not be drinking, because it breaks down gold.
And also water you should not be feeding to your plants.
Probably not, no.
How many types of fish or bugs are there that you can catch?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. I
I
don't
think
think
there's
we
like
actually
80 of both.
know the official number for New Horizons, and like the number changes from game to game. Because I think for the most part they add new species in, but I think they have maybe taken some away over the years. I don't know. Number of fish you can catch does change depending on the time of year, because they try to make it semi-realistic. Like, certain fish only come out where you can catch them during certain months, things like
Yeah, there's about 80 bugs and fish in New Horizons.
Wow. Do they have shark?
Yes.
They do. They have a whale
They have
shark in this
different
game, and I
species.
love it.
Do they have dolphins? Or, well, no, you can't catch a
Mm.
freaking dolphin.
No.
I mean, realistically, some of these sharks and some of these fish you probably shouldn't be able to catch, but they have those. So,
I think there'd be a bit of controversy around catching a dolphin in this game.
I mean, PETA already tried to come after Animal Crossing this year, so let's not put any more fuel on that fire.
Ugh, it's PETA.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was surprised by that.
Even with just like regular issues about dolphins, it's not a good idea. I'm not sure what they were getting upset about catching fish for, since you don't actually like kill the fish, you just catch them.
Museum.
And
Or you sell them to Tom Nook.
yeah,
But either
Maybe
way,
that was
no fish are harmed in the making of this game.
yeah, just keep an eye on Tom Hook. Or dang it, Tom Nook. Who knows what he does?
If you didn't say Tom Nook, then what did you say?
I said Tom Hook with an H.
Oh. I mean, if we ever get Animal Crossing Pirate Life.
Ooh. Now that's a game I would play.
I love pirate stuff.
I'm imagining exactly like New Horizons, except you also have a pirate ship.
That would be so cool. And then different villagers can be like your crew. Oh, I want this now.
See, this is the problem. I keep coming up with half-baked ideas.
An awesome idea to go to your friends' islands or whatever, and you can raid them or attack them with your ship.
I can see big problems cropping up with that right now. That would lead to some very unhappy people.
But
well, I mean,
attacking, but no one would lose resources or anything, like for fun, like a friendly battle.
Okay, yeah. See, like you'd have to do it like that because get really, really upset if they like let people in and they trample their flowers or something like that. So you would have to make it so that
it could be
no islands are actually.
It could be friendly, like confetti or firework cannons.
Or we could make it violent. It'd be the first rated Animal Crossing game.
I'm sure there's demographic for that.
That would be interesting, to say the least.
Call Isabel.
I guess since we're talking about this already, what do you guys want to see for future games?
Well, now I want to see pirates.
Oops! I keep coming up with
and a gothic theme, like vampire type gothic.
I mean, there are like darker themed items in the game, like just the other sisters, and they actually have a clothing item that's called a vampire costume, and like I have a room. Yeah, and like I have a room in my house that has skull wallpaper and skull flooring. It's like my little goth room. So, like the elements are there, they're just not at the forefront of the game.
When was the New Horizons released?
March 20th.
Of this year, right?
Yeah. Okay, it will forever be burned into the back of my brain.
Oh my goodness.
Probably won't be too long before we get it, but what are you looking forward to? Holiday themed items or events?
Yeah, we've actually already gotten one set. I think we're technically on the second set now, depending on how you count, because they did an event for Easter that was called Bunny Day, and you could get specially themed items for that. And I believe right now there's like a wedding theme going on. I'm a few days behind in the games. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, Bunny Day was definitely interesting. I don't know how many hours I poured into this game, trying to make sure I got everything.
I completely forgot to ask, are there any villagers you guys want to get? Because I know there are certain villagers you can't have right off the bat.
That depends on...
Actually, how do you get rid of villagers and acquire new ones?
Getting rid of them is the hard part, let me tell you, as somebody that has had experience with that. So, when you first start New Horizons, you get 2 villagers that move to the island with you automatically, and they're just there. But after that, you start to develop the island a little bit, and you can put down, like, you can reserve plots of land for new villagers, and then you go on the Nook Miles tours at the airport, and the islands you go to, as long as you have an open plot of land on your island, there will be a villager there. And the villager is random, so you might get somebody you're interested in, you might not. And you can ask them, talk to them, I think it's like 3 times, and then you can ask them, like, hey, do you want to come live on my island? And they'll say yes. I don't think they can say no. So then they move in, and the other way you can get villagers is if you have amiibo cards, which are, how do I explain this to somebody that doesn't have a Nintendo Switch? If you've ever had like a figure that you somehow scan into a game and it gives you something in the game for scanning that figure, it's like...
Sounds kind of like Spyro.
Yeah, yes.
They had that weird
exactly.
little platform and the little figures.
Yeah, that concept is called Toys to Life. So that's what the amiibo figures and the amiibo cards are. You scan the amiibo figure or the card, and as long as it's an Animal Crossing one, you get something in the game. If it's a villager that can actually move to your island, then they'll come visit your campsite on the island, and you can ask them to move in. That's the most effective way to get a villager to move out, because you can be like, hey, I think you have to craft an item for them, like, things, but then they'll be like, hey, I want to live here. And if you have 10 villagers already, they'll be like, do you know of somebody that was thinking about moving out? And you can pick, essentially, who's going to get booted out for this new villager.
You know, I wish we could do that in general. Just feel like, hey, I want this person off my island. Because I have a couple people on my island that I really want off. And I've been ignoring them for weeks. You know, I've been complaining to Isabel about them, but it's...
That makes me think of Survivor. You're off the island. What will you guys be looking forward to? Any new games, if they do come out with new games?
Well, I really want to have two. Now that I've seen what New Horizons has done with the whole, like, how you can decorate the inside of your home and the outside and everything like that. Actually, I really just want a decorator mode outside of your house, because manually pushing and pulling everything is the choice.
If you don't like that, you wouldn't like Skyrim decorating. That's a pain. Because there's no actual, like, hey, you can put this here, put this there. You have to actually hold it, turn it, place it very carefully, otherwise it'll fall over or fall off.
I mean, you don't have a problem with stuff.
Games like Skyrim are very glitchy.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a problem with stuff like falling over. It's just it physically won't go somewhere if the game thinks it can't go there. I don't know how to explain it. Like, okay, perfect example of why there should be a decorator mode outside. So there are these tables that take up a 2x2 space. So like a big square table. And if you go into decorator mode inside your house, you have the option of, you can put items on one corner or the center of 2 sides, or if you're in decorator mode, you can put it in the dead center of the table. Outside, because you don't have decorator mode, you only have the option of placing the item on one of the 4 corners or in the center of one of 2 sides. There's physically no way for you to move the item to the center of the table if you are outside. There just isn't. You just, it's physically impossible.
That's all the questions I have. Like I said, I didn't have many, but I will add, what is your favorite thing you have made with the shooting star shards?
I actually have not made anything. I've made some wine. That's it. I don't have any other recipes.
Yeah,
You
me
don't have
too.
the shooting star fish net? I know there's a star-shaped net. I don't know if that was used.
That's not like a special star item. You can
Oh,
just buy that from Nook's Cranny, and it breaks too. Means it's kind of pointless to buy it when you can just make a regular shaped net yourself, and it's still like it breaks the same amount.
Yeah, this game really sucks the life out of wanting to make anything cool that you know is gonna break.
I mean, just in general, it's kind of weird because okay, the crafting system, like the ability to make items, is also new to this game, and because there are some items, I guess is kind of a side effect of that some items you can cut and like make different colors, other items you can't, and some items you can craft, some items you have to hope they show up in the shop or fall out of a balloon. And it's really weird to me because some items just don't make sense following this system, and it's also really weird when um, okay, for example, there are some special items you can only purchase with your Nook Miles, like furniture items, like a vending machine is one of them. And the colors for these items, some of them are completely random, and some of them are determined by the color of your airport when you first boot up the game. But, like, you're not going to know that if you're picking up the game for the first time. And then you have to worry about soft resetting, not only to change the color of your airport, but also if you want different island layouts, that's a whole thing. But those items that you can only get with the Nook Miles, you can't customize the color of those items. So if you want a different color, you have to trade with somebody.
wow. That's quite the system.
Yeah, like I could go on a big long thing about I do not personally appreciate how much New Horizons seems like it's trying to push you to like get online and trade with other people. Like that's fine if you have a lot of friends that play Animal Crossing and you can just trade with them. This does not work if you're like already a fairly small friend group and then inside of that an even smaller number of people that actually play the game and you're not really comfortable with going agreements with.
Right. Before I give you guys free reign over what you want to say, uh, crap, what was I going to talk about? I already forgot.
Oh no.
Yes,
I
I know.
talked too much. I talked the thought out of your head.
Maybe. What was I going to say? What was it about? I hate it when this happens.
Was it like regarding a mechanic of the game like the crafting or the villagers or I'm naming things that we've talked about in the last 5 minutes.
Might have been a mechanic. Something about
Well,
shooting stars, maybe?
yeah, cuz that's where that whole tangent started was the thing about the star thing.
Let me go over my list of questions that we have done so far and see if it'll come to me. What is Animal Crossing? When did it first come out? How many games? When did you first find them? What about the game is most appealing? What are some aspects? What do you think could be changed? What do you want to see for future games? Will you be looking forward to the next game? How many types of fish are there? Oh, yeah. Now I remember. What would you guys recommend, or would you guys say to someone who's new to Nintendo gaming, at least as far as the Switch is concerned? What would you say to someone who's picking up a first-time Animal Crossing game?
I mean, okay, so if you have a Switch, really the only Animal Crossing game at your disposal is going to be New Horizons. And I have to say, I've seen different people say that New Horizons is a good game if it's your first Animal Crossing game, but it doesn't hold up as well if you're like a series veteran. Like it's not that great as like a sequel to New Leaf. I kind of agree with that based on like just some of the mechanics and stuff. That said, if you've never I think even if you've never played the game and like you started with New Leaf on the 3DS and then went to New Horizons, I think it might be a little bit different. But I mean, that's just kind of that wasn't really answering your question, but it really depends on like your taste, kind of like Alpal was alluding to earlier. She's not really into like the designing aspects that New Horizon introduces, and that's kind of a big part of New Horizons. So for a newcomer, I would say if you're more into that sort of thing, then either designer on the 3DS, because that's literally just the designing part, or New Horizons if you still want like kind of a regular Animal Crossing experience and the designing stuff. But if you're more into just kind of just the regular Animal Crossing parts that have been there for years and years and you don't really care about the designing stuff, then New Leaf would probably be the better one to go for.
Yeah, I feel, or at least personally, New Horizons is kind of, or at least for me, would be a weird one to start with. Just because, you have so much free range with New Horizons. Then if you go back and play most of the other ones, it's like you're a little more confined to what you're able to do in the aspect of your island.
Yeah.
But
That makes sense.
I think there's a little bit of everything for everyone when it comes to New Horizons. Because even though I'm not big on, designing my town and stuff, I still have fun, collecting things or fishing, catching bugs. I really love catching bugs.
This is probably a dumb question, but which Animal Crossing game is your guys' favorite?
Oof.
Oh, just be still my aching heart. Why would you ask that? Okay, if spin-offs count, I'm going to be a dirty traitor and say that Happy Home Designer is actually probably my favorite.
Of course.
That comes as a shock to nobody, I'm sure.
Not really.
But if the spin-offs don't count, oh, why is this so hard? What about you, Al Pal? I need a minute on that one.
That's really, really hard. But growing up, my siblings had Animal Crossing and I had a character on their games. But the first one that was mine was City Folk, which has a lot of nostalgia points with me. I don't know if that's my favorite, but I did enjoy that one a lot growing up. It's on the Wii. No one really talks about it anymore. I don't know if it just wasn't that popular, but I really enjoyed it.
It doesn't
Especially because you were able to kind of leave your little town and go to the city.
it
That
doesn't
was,
seem like a lot of people talk about the Wii in general anymore.
yeah.
Wait, okay, so 2 notes on that. One, from what I understand, the main reason people don't talk about City Folk is because it released not that long after Wild World, and it was very, very similar to Wild World. Like, to the point where people are kind of like, oh, City Folk is just a lesser version of Wild World, and that's why people don't really talk about it, because they're like, well, I can say pretty much everything I would say about City Folk with Wild World.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I played that one a lot more growing up than Wild World, just because, City Folk was my copy of the game. But, I mean, I don't know. There's just something about going into the city, because that was something you couldn't do in Wild World, that I really enjoyed altogether. But I also really like New Horizons. So,
So I have City Folk, but like I've never played it because I got it like secondhand a couple years ago after the Wii was kind of already on its way out. But going to the city there, is that anything like you could kind of go up to like a little city strip in New Leaf, or how did that work?
so you would go to the bus station in your town, and they would take you to the city where they had, different stores. They had, label store, they had a hairdresser, things like that. So you're kind of taken to a new location.
Hey, yeah, so that sounds a lot like in New Leaf. In New Leaf, you just walk over the train tracks and you're in your little city circuit instead of having to get on a bus.
I love that bus.
Well,
Which,
Yeah, it is pretty similar, but, it kind of stuck out for me because, Wild World, you didn't really have anything like that.
that is pretty cool that you would be able to go from your town to a bigger city like that. But that's all of the questions that I have. You guys have free reign over what you want to say if there's anything else you would like to add.
the bus thing just makes me think of like Animal Crossing has had so many different modes of transportation for how you like go different places in the games, and I'm kind of wondering if they have a problem keeping travel agencies on or something.
I don't know, I really like how every game is a little bit different, so it's unique.
Go back and forth. I think for me, it would be kind of interesting to see the different methods incorporated together. Especially because the main thing for me is that like you spend a whole game getting used to whatever characters are responsible for that game's mode of transportation, and then in the next game, sometimes they come back, but usually not.
Yeah. But speaking about that with New Horizons, I really like Wilbur and Orville.
Yeah, I like them too. I'm just it. Wow.
Like the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they're named after. They're dodos. They're cute.
Wow.
I really like how they have dodos. That's really cute to me. I love it.
I just think it's really funny, especially because, like the thing they say when you're flying to someone else's island is when you want to fly, just ask yourself what would a dodo do or something like that. And like the funny part of that is I think the conclusion you're supposed to draw is like, oh, what would a dodo do? Dodos can't fly, so they take an airplane. And that's just really funny and cute. It does make me wonder what happened to Porter. I think that was the name of the little chimp that ran the train station in New Leaf. Because we don't see him, and I'd like to know what happened to him.
Yeah. Oh, what was that one bird's name from Wild World? The one who I know he was in more games. It's just that was the first game that came to my head. When oh, when you're in the museum and you go downstairs and they have
Coffee shop. That's Brewster. I miss Brewster.
I need him here.
too, because
Like,
in New Leaf, you could open, like, one of your public works projects you could do in your town is you could do, like, a little cafe, and that's where he worked, and you could even play, like, a little mini game where you served the villagers coffee. I want that so badly.
yeah, I'm really salty I can't have a cafe here, because I think that would really bring my town together.
You can make one, kind of, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
I've seen quite a few characters that I like the styles of, like you guys were talking about Celeste and her brother.
Others.
Yeah, I like their design. I've seen quite a few people play the game, at least New Horizons on Twitch. I do like a lot of character designs. It's
So,
a lot
you
more
know,
cute than what I'm used to, but it's also a nice change of pace.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the whole point of the game is it's just cute. Which I think one of my favorite characters, design-wise, is Kix. He's a skunk that sells shoes and backpacks, and I just really like Kix. Kix is nice, and he doesn't
Yeah.
spray you despite being a skunk. Despite there's a little ghost that shows up on your island sometimes in New Horizons, and like every time you walk up to him, he gets so scared he breaks into 5 pieces.
That's funny.
And then you have to go find the other 5 pieces and bring them back to the sentient piece that's left of him.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I know it's not really a mini game, but you know that little activity you get to do. Because I know sometimes the pelican will wash up on the island, but I always feel like he's kind of rude when he asks me to help find his stuff. So I don't appreciate it.
Only real beef with either of those things is that it gets kind of stale because they're both essentially the same thing, where you go up and talk to the character. Well, okay, Gulliver, you have to wake up first, but you wake him up, he talks to you, and you have to go chase down 5 items and bring them back to the character. It just gets a little bit stale for me. And Wisp in particular is like, okay, you ready, you shouldn't be scared every single time I
I don't know.
So characters
Trying to live
also
his
have
best life.
quests.
kind of. There's those two, and then like your villagers will occasionally ask you to do something for them. Like, I know one of the things I've seen in New Horizons a couple of times is sometimes you'll have a villager, they have a thought, they'll like run up to you like, hey, do you treasure hunt? And they'll bury an item somewhere on the island, and you have to go find it and dig it up in a certain amount of time. And I think I read somewhere this amount of time you're given is kind of reflected in how hard the treasure hunt is. Like, you're given less time if it's harder because it's supposed to be a challenge, and then you get to keep whatever you found in the treasure hunt.
I haven't done that on my island yet. No one's asked me to do that.
I think friendship level has to be at a certain level with one of the villagers before they'll ask you to do that. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's how it works. I've twice or 3 times maybe. At least twice.
Yeah, there's only like 3 villagers on my island I actually like. Everyone else, they either came here on their own or I invited them just because I needed to progress in the game.
Oh, you know what's really dumb? I found this out one night with like my one other friend that plays Animal Crossing, is you can still have villagers randomly show up at your campsite even if you're full up, but you can't have a friend come over and ask them to go live on their island, or even just come visit their island, so they could potentially ask them to move in.
Really?
Yeah, like that's Because you can, if you have a villager moving out, or online the terminology is in boxes, like they ask to move out and you were okay with that, so the next day they're in their house but they have like all their stuff in boxes. You can go to someone else's island and talk to that villager and be like, hey, do you want to come live in my town or my island? And they'll be like, yeah. But you can't do that with the campsite. It's ridiculous to me. And it was really disappointing. We found this out because there was like a specific villager that I was looking for, and he just showed up at my campsite. So then I had to do like a little research, like, oh, can he actually come invite him to live? And I was, yeah, that makes sense. Like if I can ask him to come live on my island, and you can do that with the houses. Why couldn't you do it with the campsite? And that's when I like did the research, and I'm like, oh no, you can't for some reason.
That's stupid.
It really is, because like it just, even if you couldn't ask them straight away to come island, I think you should be able to ask them like, hey, do you want to come visit my island? Because the premise is they're coming to the campsite because they're just like taking a trip to visit different islands, okay? So you should be able to have a friend come over, talk to them, and be like, hey, do you want to come visit my island at my campsite? And then the next day, they'll show up, and then, you know, they're at their campsite, so it proceeds like normal. Like, you can just ask them, do you want to live on my island now? Like, it's a two-step process, but it makes more sense.
Yeah, especially since you can ask villagers who are already planning on leaving an island to join yours. Doesn't make too much sense to me, but I guess that would be something I'd change in the next game.
I mean, it's just like you can't, there's really nothing you can do other than forcing a villager out with an amiibo to get them to leave. Because I tried. I fought that battle because a few amiibo cards, but I had already used 2, and I was trying to not like have half my villagers be amiibo cards. Had 2 villagers on my island. I wanted to leave. One was one of the first ones that moved in with me, so I was just kind of stuck with Billy. And then the other one, here's the other dumb part. Alpau, you already know this. This is more for
Me.
yeah, for Marcus's. And so when you first put your campsite on your island, the first villager that shows up is them, and you have to take the first villager that shows up. You have to. They will not leave your campsite until you take them. You're stuck with them.
Talk about stubborn.
Yeah, that's like a really, like, the whole point of the camp is supposed to be like people just show up, you know, and because under this, they show up for that one day, and if you don't ask them to live there, the next day, and I think you wait, I think it's 10 days minimum for another one to show up or something like that. But
10 in-game days or IRL?
It's technically because the game runs, unless you do time traveling, the game runs off of your system.
Right.
But so I was stuck with Billy, who was one of my first ones that moved in, and then I was stuck with Henry, who was my first campsite villager that I had no choice in. And I tried everything in the book to get these 2 to move out. It's not even funny. Like, I resorted to violence. I took my net, and like I would physically hit them with the net like 10 times in a row, and they still didn't have the urge to move out.
Wow.
Yeah, so
abuser.
I mean, they were the ones that forcibly moved into my island and then wouldn't leave. And like it kind of stung all the more so because Henry in particular was kind of bullying my other villagers. Like, he kept making them mad or upset. And eventually I was just like, okay, look, Mr. Frog, you gotta go. So I caved and I used an amiibo card to get him out. And then I had like one other villager that I was okay with having on my island as a card that I forced Billy out with.
Yeah, I really wish you had more control over who does come and leave your village or your island.
Or at least, like, don't force specific villagers on people, because that's not cool.
Yeah, especially because, different personalities kind of clash. It's like, one of my villagers was mean to one of my favorite characters, so I've been trying to get her out for like 3 months now.
Ugh.
And, you just...
I think... I don't know. I think that was the one exception to the campsite thing, is I think, don't quote me on this, I think if you have a friend that invites an amiibo to their campsite, then you can ask them to move in, but like you have to craft a certain number. Because I know for each amiibo villager that I did, I had to invite them back like 3 different times, so 3 separate days, and craft an item for them on each day before they would be like, hey, I want to move here. Do you know somebody that wants to move out? I think you can do that on like a friend's campsite, but I'm not sure. In general, there needs to be a better system in place for that.
Right.
Especially, like, if you're going to stick with forcing villagers on people, you need to put a system in place so they can, like, force them out. Well, okay, a system beyond just buy amiibo cards, especially because they're not actively selling amiibo cards right now. And I looked online just out of curiosity. If you can find just one pack of cards and, like, you don't even know what they're like $50, or people are charging like I think the absolute cheapest I saw was there are some places where you can just pick a card and it's like $7. Or if you're a crazy person and you know there's a specific villager you want, you can look for that card, and if they're a popular character, you could very easily drop $50 to $100 on one card.
50 to 100.
Yeah, because like there are some characters that are really popular and people have the amiibo cards, and because they're not actively being sold anymore, they're like, oh, this is a popular character. I'm going to make bank off of this.
I mean, kind of smart.
I mean, yeah, but what gets me is I think the amiibo cards were a little bit more expensive than like your typical pack of like baseball cards or whatever, but I still think I tried to research this. It's hard because, like I say, they're not being actively sold anymore. I think they topped out at around $5 a pack.
I could get a...
So,
Ooh.
yeah, like that is... It's weird to me that they're not actively selling them anymore when they've put them in the new game, and like the cards aren't even that old. Like they debuted sometime after New Leaf came out, which was in 2013. And then they made some more cards around 2015 or 16 because New Leaf got like a really big update that was all about the amiibo inclusivity. Right. So I'm like, why are you not actively selling these anymore?
That's insane. Maybe they plan on it in the future. Who knows?
I really hope so. Of course, then again, the other thing is that in general, not just the Animal Crossing ones, have kind of been like they're kind of dying out almost. They're not really like releasing a whole lot of them anymore. I don't think, I'm not even sure when the last time they released a new amiibo was. So I don't know what's going on there. It's very, very weird.
Well, that's about everything. That's everything I've got. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
I mean, I honestly, I could talk about this game for probably like 3 days straight if you let me, so.
I don't know. I think I've gone over most of my big points about, why I like the game, why it's kind of a nice, unique game because not a lot of games are out there that you can just, kind of live life. I mean, there's Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon, but
Well, even those have more of like a farming element to them. Like, do either of you guys remember Farmville? Like when that was a
Yeah.
big thing on
Oh,
Facebook?
boy.
Yeah. Like, and I've seen some people speculating on, I think somebody data mined the game and saw like other vegetables and stuff that we don't currently have in the game, and people were like, oh, could this mean we're going to get farming mechanics? And I'm over here like, personally, unless it's the exact same as the fruit that we currently have in the game, I don't really want farming mechanics to come to Animal Crossing. Because if it's like a timed thing and like you have to be very meticulous about it, that's not what Animal Crossing is about to me. Like, I don't think that's the way it should be. Because
Yeah,
I think it would just be too stressful.
yeah, I agree with you because as someone who does play a lot of Harvest Moon, it it can be very, I don't want to say stressful, but annoying, trying to farm like that. Farming really isn't for everyone when it comes to games. Because even when I play Harvest Moon, my farms are mostly dairy farms. Like I have cows, horses, pigs, chickens. I don't like growing stuff.
Well, and see, like what I remember in Farmville, if you weren't careful and you didn't like log in every day to check on your crops and stuff, they would rot or something. And then like all that time that you spent like getting everything ready was kind of a waste. And or okay, good example of why I do not like the idea of farming mechanics. In New Leaf, you could get perfect fruit. Like, very rarely one of your fruit trees would have a perfect one of the fruits on the tree. And when you shook it down, you could get the perfect fruit. And if you planted the perfect fruit, it would only grow perfect fruit. But I think if I remember correctly, the fruit were capable of rotting, and I think you could only have the tree for like 7 days before it died or became like a regular fruit tree or something like that. And I ended up with, I think, 3 different perfect fruits over my entire course of playing the game. I never planted them. I put them in the storage in my house because they wouldn't rot there, because the idea of having a time-sensitive tree was just too stressful for me. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, it really isn't for everyone, so I would be perfectly fine if Animal Crossing never picked that up ever again.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about, that the rotting thing just reminded, we didn't talk about turnips. Didn't talk about that at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
turnips.
so you can buy turnips in the game, and it's called the stalk market.
Oh my god.
Yeah, get it?
Hmm.
So the way the system works is there's a little pig that comes to your island on Sundays. It used to be Joan, now it's her Daisy May. And she comes to your island on Sundays to sell turnips, and the turnips sell for a set price. And that price will change depending on what Sunday it is. And then throughout the week, you can sell those turnips at the store, and the price goes up and down, just like for the stock market. And you can have certain trends. Like one week you might have, oh, the turnip prices are progressively going up until they peak and then they start going back down. Or you can just be on like a downward trend where the prices are horrible the entire week. Or you can have some weeks where it's just kind of random. And the entire point is like real stocks, like buy low, sell high. Problem: the turnips only last a week. And the next Sunday comes around, like 1 minute after midnight, all your turnips are rotted and you have lost all your money.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
And well, what makes this worse is you cannot time travel while you have the turnips. You can go forward in time up until that next Sunday, and they'll be okay. But if you time travel, if you touch your system clock and go back even 1 minute in time, again, they all rot and you've lost all your money.
Oh man, that would suck.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't touch them.
Yeah, I have only bought turnips one time, and the only reason I bought them was because my brother knew, like, he was using one of the apps you can use to track your turnip trend to predict your prices, and he knew he was going to have a good price. So that was the only time I bought them, because I knew I was 100% going to make a good return on it, and I did. But other than that, I never touched them, especially because the prices on my island just to see, because people have made a monopoly out of this. Like, if you have a good price on turnips, you can go on Reddit or somewhere and be like, hey, this is my turnip price, I'm letting people in. And that in and of itself is kind of a good way to make money and stuff in the games, because a lot of people are courteous and they'll tip you. And I think standard tipping is like 10,000 bells, which is pretty good. Yeah. But I have heard stories of people waiting in lines for hours because somebody had a really good price on turnips. Like, the prices were
Oh my god,
like
it's
five
like
or
real life.
yeah, like 500 or 600 bells for turnips or something. And that just sounds horrifying to me. And like I said, I already don't like the idea of having to go set up with strangers online to get stuff in the game, so I just don't touch them. But the prices, Daisy May on my island, she usually sells for around 100 bells a pop for the turnips. My prices, I don't think I have the store buy them for more than like 140 bells, which is still a profit, but it's not a huge one. Like that one time I bought them and traded on my brother's island. Daisy was selling them for, I think, like 90 bells a piece, and on his island they were being bought for 300 bells a pop, around there. So that was like a good enough return for me to say, okay, I'll do it. Oh, you know something that needs to be, I think this is my last thing, and then I'm out of things that we haven't already touched on at least a little bit. In New Horizons, you can only have one island per Nintendo Switch system.
Like one island, even if you have different...
Even if you have different user accounts, you can only have one island on the whole system.
Wow.
Why?
I think the official reasoning is they're worried about something like that, which that idea is kind of thrown out the window because people have figured out ways to do that anyway with just the other user profiles on the same island. But like, got really, really upset about that. On the one hand, I understand. I don't know how people could manage, even people that have two systems, so they are currently managing two islands at one time. Like, I have enough trouble like keeping up one island.
I
But
don't know. I mean,
but yeah, it is an arbitrary limitation, especially because even if you have multiple copies of the game, like one island forever.
I don't like
That's
that.
crazy that the system
On
could
past
recognize that.
what?
That's crazy the system can recognize something like that.
I think it's because even if you have more than one cartridge, I think most of the game information is stored on the system itself now. I could be mistaken. But it is just weird because on past systems like just the DS, like I ended up with 2 copies of New Leaf, a physical copy and a digital copy. And like you could have more than one town that way. Like I could have a town on my digital copy and I could have a town on my physical copy, which I couldn't manage 2 towns that way either, but I had the option of it. It's just like, and people are still really upset about it because the idea is that the unofficial reason they're not telling us is to force people to buy more systems. But even then, I actually think that is kind of the opposite of what's happening because I feel like more families would maybe be they just had to buy the one system and all their kids could play on it, whereas it might be, oh, if I want all my kids to play this game and have their own island or whatever, they have to share, and my kids are not good at sharing, so I'm just gonna not buy one at all to avoid that problem.
Right.
Or even if it's not kids, like just more than one person living in a house, even if they're full grown adults, like they might not want to share an island, but they might also not have the funds to buy 2. If you buy the Switch Lite, they're $200 a piece. They might not have $400 to blow on 2 systems. Or if you want the regular Switch, they might not have $600 to just blow on 2 systems.
Yeesh.
So
yeah.
it is
Guess we'll have to
definitely a
wait to see
problem.
if the prices go down next year.
That's the thing is like the prices don't really. Oh, that's right. On top of the price of the system, you also have the price of the game, which is $60.
Yay!
Yay, indeed. So like, yeah, I just that's definitely like a problem because it's one thing to ask people to spend $200 or $300 for one system, and then if you have more than one kid, so you need 2 copies of the game or something, oh, that's $120 for the game. It's that, or you buy 2 systems for at least $200 each and 2 $60 games. That's a lot. Well, actually, okay, I guess you would only need 1 copy of the game, but like you can't play one game on 2 systems at the same time, so
Sharing.
yeah. I mean, that would work if you have one person that is like awake during the day and another one that's awake at night, but that is not going to happen often, especially if you're talking about little kids.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring, kids.
Yeah, but like this is the type of thing I feel like you shouldn't have to share.
I'm going to say, as an adult, with my adult siblings, we don't like sharing. So if we adults won't do it, kids won't.
That's a fair point.
And like also just in like the other problem with that is if you have more than one person, one of those people is going to be the island representative, and the other players, I think you can have up to 3 players living on one island. I could be mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But the other islanders that are not the island representative can't do everything that the island representative can do. So,
oh boy.
yeah, so then you have another problem of even if you're going to be somewhat limited in your options available to you.
I don't think they thought this through very much.
Either that, or like they thought it through a little too well to the point where you're like, okay, if you're really trying to make people buy more than one system and buy more than one game, you've got that goal locked on. But at what cost? And that's the part they didn't think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that whole thing could technically change with an update, but so far does not look like it's gonna happen. Especially because if they changed it now, they'd have the additional problem of everybody that already bought an additional system and an addition to circumvent that problem would then be mad that if they had just waited a certain amount of time longer, they wouldn't have had to do that.
At least they can take it to GameStop and get trade credit.
That's true, and it's a very popular game, so I'm sure even if they just tried to like sell it on eBay or something, as long as they weren't like charging full retail, then they'd probably still get like somebody to take it.
Yeah, somebody's gonna want it.
Especially if like you can just reset the game so that it's basically a brand new one.
Right.
But yeah, it is a flawed game, but it is still technically a good game.
Really, though. Now that I'm older, I wasn't really into Animal Crossing once I actually got good at video games. But I've spent a lot of time with New Horizons, so if that says anything.
Dude, you don't want to know the number of... Actually, Alpal, you do know the number of hours I've spent on this game. It's not pretty.
That's you've done more hours on Animal Crossing than I have on Tetris, and that's really sad. So I play a lot of Tetris.
Please do tell how many hours.
Hold on, I gotta check.
What do you
'Cause
have
I don't-
logged?
Give me just a second to pull it up here. I'm glad I actually have my Switch in front of me, because then that would just add another hurdle to this. Let's see. Oh! Over, because the Switch logs by increments of 5 hours.
Right.
So, 390 hours or more.
Jesus.
Yeah, that is my most on my Switch currently. In second place is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it's 265 hours or more.
That's not as many as I thought it would be.
What, for Breath?
Yeah. It seems
I
like
mean-
a big game. It seems like it would be a long game.
I mean, it's still over hours, and like,
True.
and you also have to keep in mind, I'm kind of done for the most part with that game, because other than like the last DLC pack that I never finished, I completed the main story and all the quests I actually wanted to do. I think there's a couple I never finished because I just wasn't interested. I don't remember. But
You should
so like
finish
it could
them.
potentially... What?
You should finish them. You never know. You could get
I
cool
know.
item.
No, I know what you get, and you do get a cool item. I'm not going to spoil what it is for Alpal. If she ever... I don't know if she has plans to do the DLC or not, but just in case, I'm not going to spoil it.
Probably not, but we'll see.
Yeah, but and in... Okay, so in third place, since we're having this conversation, Splatoon 2 for 235 hours or more. Which I did not expect. I did not expect Splatoon and Animal Crossing to be that high. Like, I expected... I knew that Breath of the Wild was over 200, so I expected, like, a little over 200 for Animal Crossing. I expected maybe over 100 for Splatoon. So...
What games do you have on Switch?
well, those three that I just went over. In a very distant fourth place for my most played game is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 15 hours. course,
You know
that's
what,
not
my-
counting. What?
Because at least I know you seem to talk about Splatoon a lot, so that didn't surprise me when you said how many hours.
Yeah, and like it's a multiplayer game, like it's a shooter, so the idea is you hop in regularly, and that kind of racks up the hours. And if you can figure out how to do it, there's a couple single player campaigns. I am not very good at those, and I cannot figure out what my problem is. But and actually, the Mario Kart is probably higher because this is just on the Switch. I also had Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, and I know I logged a lot of hours in that, so that number is technically probably higher. Actually, I have a decent library on the Switch, but I haven't played a lot of them. So let's see. Okay, Super Mario Maker 2.
I didn't know they had a second one.
Yeah, it came out about this time last year, I think, and they just had like a big update. And this says played for 2 hours or more, but again, this is a game I had on the Wii U, and I logged a lot more hours in it on the Wii U than on the Switch, even though that was Mario Maker 1, so they're technically not the same game, but like my point still stands. Cuphead, which is a very difficult game.
Oh, I've seen it.
Not as difficult as people make it seem.
Well, but you've also played it for a lot longer than I have, and I think I'm just bad at video games.
No, it is hard, but when I was talking to people, they're all like, "Oh, it's like really hard," and I was thinking, "Oh no, this is gonna be like the Dark Souls of cute cartoon games." And I played, and I was like, it's really not that bad.
I want to play Dark Souls.
Be prepared, because I have heard kind of like only ever heard about how difficult of a game it is. Like that's the only context people bring up Dark Souls in.
I have too, and I want to see if it really is hyped up to be what it is.
Hey, I've been scared away from it. Like I will never touch that series. If it's as hard as people have led me to believe, I want nothing to do with it.
When I get to that point, I will let you know.
Let's see. I've also got Pokken Tournament, which I definitely played way more on the Wii U than I did on the Switch. But like, it's a good game. I like Pokken Tournament. I feel like people forget about it a lot because it's not like a mainline Pokemon game.
I feel like that's with a lot of Pokemon games, though.
I mean, yeah. Anything that's not mainline, people tend to forget about a lot. I've got Doom, not the new one, not Doom Eternal, the first one that was ported to the Switch. Super Mario Odyssey, ARMS, which I need to play more because it's the one game I have that's like exercisey. Cave Story Plus, Flipping Death, which I need to play more, and is a game that probably nobody has ever heard of.
Nope.
I've heard of it. I don't really know what it's about, but I've heard of it.
It's actually I need to play it more because it's actually really cool. I first found out about it before it came out because I was getting like the Game Informer magazines for a little while, and it was in one of those issues as like an upcoming game. And
do they still have Game Informer?
Yeah, I'm just not getting it now, I don't think. But like I was getting it for a little while because it came with like the membership at GameStop or whatever. You got like a year of it free or something.
Oh right.
But yeah, Flipping Death is really cool, and like I really like the aesthetics of it because it's a little it's like cartoony, but like gritty cartoony, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's almost got kind of a paper cutout feel to it, and it's very interesting. But essentially, like what happens, it's mostly a 2D platformer. You are a main character. You get involved with death somehow, and your main objective is like reclaiming It's been a while since I played it. I need to play it more. But I remember reading about it in Game Informer before it came out, and I was like, this sounds cool. I want this. And then I forgot about it, and then I remembered it, and I specifically went looking through my stash of Game Informer magazines so that I could find that one and remember what the name of it was. I think it's like $15 or something like that because it's a smaller, like, indie title. But what I have played of it, like, it was really good.
I love indie games, man. You could find a lot of hidden gems.
And also sometimes some real trash. But yes, hidden gems among the trash are very common too. Or like, I have Hollow Knight, but I haven't played it a
I
whole
like Hollow
lot.
Knight.
Yeah, I've actually been a little bit discouraged from playing it because from what I understand, like you get later in the game and it gets a lot less generous with the save points. Difficulty
Yeah.
spike. And that does not sound like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an annoying game. It's a stressful game, but it is a lot of fun.
I've played it a little bit. Like, it looks like really, I love the visuals that it's got going on.
Yeah, the aesthetic is wonderful, but it's a doozy.
Which I think, okay, last two games on my list. I have Nine Parchments, which is another like indie game. I got this one because I got hooked on the demo, and it wasn't that expensive on the eShop. I forget how much it was. I have not played it in a really long time, but it was fun for a little while. And then I have Sky, like, it's not what I was led to believe Skyrim would be, so like I'm just kind of disappointed in it.
What were you led to believe it was?
I mean, I thought it was going to be like a big open world, like kind of go anywhere, do whatever you want, like open world medieval.
It technically
setting.
is. You just have
Well, but,
quests
like-
and stories and stuff.
Well, and see, I was expecting like more customization. Even like when you just first boot up the game, I was very disappointed by how limited the customization options were.
Well,
and then,
it
like-
was a game that came out in 2011, 2000. Hold on, let me look it up.
I mean, I get that, but I feel like there are games from that time frame that had better customization. And also, like, there's still like a mainline story that like you're supposed to do, and that's not really what I was like. I think also part of the problem is because it's on Switch, and like I've been told it's better with mods, and
It is. It's
yeah, and like unless you're willing to crack open your Switch and violate Nintendo's terms of service and potentially brick your Switch, then there's not just a concise way to put mods into the game on the Switch. And
I think you
personally-
would like Fallout 4 if you like post-apocalyptic stuff. Fallout 4 is pretty good with the customization of your characters. You can.
I've
customize
heard
your-
about Fallout, and I don't really think it's for me. Like, I'm sure, I mean, obviously other people like it's a huge franchise, but I think the other thing, and this is like a huge can of worms to open now, but Skyrim and Fallout, they have like that gritty realism to them.
True.
I am just not into that in games in general.
Skyrim VR is a whole lot of fun. I love it. It's hard. It's frustrating at times, though, trying to fight a dragon when you're in VR.
Yeah, that sounds, no thank you.
Or fighting a freaking Daedra. Daedras are hard battles. I sound like a nerd now, I'm sorry.
I mean, hey, we are all talking about video games here. Like, I think we've passed the point of nerdism already.
True, or I guess technically geekism.
It depends on like your definition of the word,
True.
because I've seen them be used interchangeably.
I feel like we've gone over this already.
I don't know if I feel like maybe we did have this conversation before. I don't know if it was on a podcast though, which we have moved kind of far away from the original topic of Animal Crossing. Oops.
And again, we are
Oh,
towards
yeah.
the end of the podcast, but we can get back on track if you want to.
I mean, I think I kind of said everything I had to say about Animal Crossing, unless you have something else you want to.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much all.
Alright, I guess that wraps it up then. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the mostly Animal Crossing podcast and some more Nintendo and video game wise podcast talk. We got off track a little bit again, but thankfully this time it was at the very end. If you guys liked the video, please subscribe and share with friends. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.